Yay! Hello.
Let's see. And I can turn it up here. Great. So this is the room here at the con. There may be people bouncing. So we're right on time. Oh, my connection's unstable. So do you want me to introduce you or?
I can't really hear you because I think the connection isn't good.
Oh, the door. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So, want me to introduce you at all? Or?
Yeah, sure. I can introduce myself, or you can introduce me. Up to you. Up to you.
Just go for it, and I'll mute my.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
All right. I don't know how well this mic.
The video keeps cutting out, and the audio.
So, if you want to just introduce yourself, and you're good to.
Sorry, I can't hear or see you guys. It keeps jumping. Okay, I'll take whatever you say in chat and roll with it. Hi, my name is Brittany Lauda. I am a voice actor for different things like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where I play Foo Fighters or FF in Stone Ocean. I'm Rico in Made in Abyss. I'm Yuzuriha in Dr. Stone. And I am Satoko in Higurashi, Law Young version in One Piece, and a bunch of other stuff. Those are some easy picks. As a direct anime, I just finished up Legends of Galactic Heroes United Taste season 3. And recently a movie that we worked on called Flying Phantom Ship was announced, which is really cool because it was an older movie that Miyazaki worked on back in the 60s, so pretty neat. I co-own a company called Coach Sound with my husband, where we do a lot of games or dubs or stuff like that. Particularly, we try to work on things that we are passionate about. We did the dubs for Akudama Drive and Kemono Jihen last year. That got a good bit of traction. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Do you guys want to ask me questions, or do you want me to just keep talking? I don't know how you guys want to run it. Since our connection seemed to be weird whenever you try to talk, do you want to type questions in the chat? Is that okay? Because you said you could hear me okay, right? Sure. Yeah. So I got started in voice acting because I wanted to act when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, I want to get on Disney Channel or something. I really Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and stuff like that. And I had taken acting classes, and I did a monologue class. And that was one of the various acting classes I did. And in the class we practiced for a few weeks different monologues and stuff, and got acting training and things. And my monologue that I selected was from The Crucible. I was in middle school, so it was pretty heightened material for a middle schooler. While everyone else was picking their silly little monologues, I picked that one, and I was really amped up about it. And I lived in New York at the time, so we had access to a lot of stuff going on in New York City. So we were taken to this agent showcase night, and that was what we were going to do at the very end of this monologue class, was present our monologues to a showcase of agents that would give us feedback. So I went and I did that, and I performed my monologue, and the only feedback I had gotten was that I had glasses and braces, and I was pretty bummed out about that. So I went and home that night, and I was like, well, I'm never gonna be an actor, and I was pretty down about it. And then a few years later, I had figured out that there was people who actually had the job of acting for the cartoons that I loved and the anime that I loved and the games that I loved. I was like, I want to do that. So I started looking online about how you could do that. And there are way more resources today about how to get into voice acting, lots of classes. But at the time, there really wasn't that much. There was like the adventures in voice acting classes, and that was it. But there was forums and stuff for people who were also interested in that. So I joined some of those, like Facebook groups and forums and chat rooms and what have you, and started trying to figure out how I could get started in this. And On one of those boards, I had answered a call for an indie game, and I booked it, and it paid $100 real American. And I was feeling like I was on top of the world, getting paid $100 to do this thing that I loved, and I was like, I want to do this forever. But my parents still wanted me to go to college and, figure out other things I could do with my life. So I continued to like try and do voiceover while I went to school. My parents from 18th birthday gave me an adventures in voice acting class. Like they paid for me to go to one of those when it came to New York City, and I did that. And the feedback I got from Tony Oliver, who was running it, was very encouraging, and encouraged me more that I wanted to pursue this. And While I was in school, I continued to audition for things. I got booked on a few indie games. I got booked on a series of Hasbro apps where I did voice matching for Transformers, and I did voice matching for like 13 different My Little Pony characters. And then I also booked my very first anime when I was coming home from, I think, my second year of college. Might have been my first, I don't know, but I was coming home from college, and I got asked to come in for this audition for an anime, and I went in and I was super nervous, and I did it. And then I went home and I didn't hear anything for like a month and a half, and then I heard back being like, hey, we want to book you for this part. Can you come in and start recording? And that was almost like, I think I like took a screenshot the other day because it came up on my Facebook memories, and it was something like 10 years ago or something like that. I was like, oh my God. And yeah, and from there I just wanted to keep trying to figure out how I could pursue this, and here I am today, continuing to do the thing. Any other questions? I don't know if you guys have questions that you want to ask or what. What was your most challenging role? I really struggled playing Doctor in Akudama Drive because it was really different from other characters that I played, and I was really insecure about it. I didn't want her to be like too samey, and I didn't want her to be too young sounding. So trying to figure out how I could portray her so it didn't feel like I was just always doing the same thing, which is a challenge I have when I'm doing like a low kind of like sexy character. And like bringing her to life in a realistic, natural way, to fit in with the rest of the characters on that show. And I was just always concerned that I was not that I was like the weakest link in the show, because everyone else sounded so good. And it was a role that Matt and I had put me as, so there was like that extra layer of difficulty wrapped into it. But like for budgetary and timing reasons, we had to put ourselves, or we decided to put ourselves in the cast to help like be able to budget better for the rest of the cast and budget our time better, because we're working around holidays and stuff. And it's like, well, Matt and I can record at any time. So we put ourselves as the two characters that were at the time of like what was available at Akudama Drive. They had like the lower line counts. So we're like, okay, we'll play these two characters. And Yeah, so it was really challenging to like try and meet the expectations of like the rest of the cast, and like prove that I could play that kind of role, and self-directing on that. Matt also directed me on it, but that was pretty tough. But when I watch it back now, I'm really proud of how it turned out. I'm really happy with my performance, and it was really nice because so many like when we had the first episode come out, so many people had really nice things to say about me as playing that role, and like enjoying it and liking what I did and it being different from what I usually play. So that was really cool. Um, so yeah. Other challenging role might be like Foo Fighters in JoJo's, just because it's so many different like layers to the character. They are just very multifaceted in terms of the different forms that they take. So trying to make all those forms work together, and trying to capture like the nuance of being human for the first time and like having intellect for the first time and how they capture and see the world around them. So, yeah. What about most fun role? Mm, it's a tie between a few things. There's one character that I can't talk about yet, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to talk about, but they were like a big dream role for me to play, and every moment that I spent playing them was so fun and validating and like awesome. Um, and so I like just really loved playing that character and embodying that like I don't know, piece of me. And I hope that one day it'll come out and I'll be able to talk about it and share with everyone and be like, I did this, I actually did it. But for now, I can't say the exact character, but it was validating as heck and really cool to play a dream character like that. But another dream character that I got to play that I can talk about was Satoko. I actually have like a little Satoko like little thing right on my desk from Higurashi, because I love Higurashi. Like I grew up really loving Higurashi as a high schooler. Like it was one of my favorite shows. And was something that when I was younger and wanting to get into voice acting, like I had read aloud a lot of the Higurashi manga and different character voices of like what I think they should sound like. And I found a recording after I got cast as Satoko, of me doing her signature oh ho ho laugh when I was like 15 years old. And I still have that recording on my computer, and it was really funny to listen back to and be like, well, did an official thing, like I play that character. And she was my least favorite character in Higurashi when I watched it as a kid. But she had a lot of new things that she got to do in the newest seasons of Go and Sotsu, and it really put more depth into her character. And so there was so many fun things I got to do between like being villainous or being threatening or like crazy Higurashi laugh moments, or cynical, or there were scenes where I got to like fight against myself. So it's just really cool to like get to embody a character that I was so familiar with that they put a new light on and new depth to. And I really got to make my own in those ways because we saw her in ways that she's never been portrayed before. And that was a really fun role. And then like, how can you say JoJo's isn't fun to work on, because it's just just such a fun ride, and there's so many funny things I get to say. Like in the batch that's out on Netflix right now, I got to say, hey you fugly hoe, and that's just not every anime lets to say that, man. So yeah. Do you prefer group recording sessions or solo? I've only done a few group recording sessions, unless you were counting like Walla, where you kind of record all together. But most anime, in my experience, has all been independent, unless it's like a Walla group. Um, And like I've done a few games or animations and stuff where we did group, but even then, like we did Pokemon evolutions on like a group setting. um Even though we like did it remotely, it was like all we were all connected in a call together recording. But then they had us record one at a time even though that was the case. So it was really weird because like my character was like the last one we did, so I just like sat on the floor of my booth kind of like waiting for my character to come up. But it was cool to hear everyone else perform, and like how they attacked the copy and what the director settled on as the final take. So then like I kind of got to see everyone, like the evolution of their process. So when I came in, I was like, oh right, I remember this person did this and this person did that. Which is not how other group recording sessions I've done have worked, where it's like we're just kind of like doing the script, performing the script together. So that was interesting. But I like performing, at least like with anime. My preferred thing is like someone else already being recorded so I can act off their performance, but not having to like, I guess, like have them in the room with me, because then they don't have to see me doing weird shit that I do. And plus like I'm very like COVID safe, which is part of why like I ended up coming to PortCon Maine this year in person, because I don't really go and see people. So the idea of like recording and yelling or screaming or singing with someone else in the room with me kind of freaks me out right now, but that's just me right now. So yeah, I think both are fun, and I never was a big fan of doing Walla because I'm not very good at improv. But um, there's something fun about getting to act in another room with people and bounce off of each other's energy too. You get to respond to other performances much when recording solo, or does the director run you through levels of performance? When recording solo, a lot of times if someone's already been recorded, um, the director will, or the engineer will have them playing for me. Sometimes it's not the case where I'm like, oh, wait, you have this person recorded. Why am I not getting to act off of them? And sometimes it's a matter of like routing, or like maybe they're going to change that track. It's not final. Or for whatever reason they don't want me responding to it, but for the most part they have them in. So like there's been plenty of times when I recorded, for example, like Satsuko, where I was able to act entirely off of Athia Yi's performance, and that's always pretty cool. Um but uh and, and for Maiden Abyss, I was one of the final people to record on the full series. So up until like the last 2 or 3 episodes, like Reg was entirely in it. So I was able to act off Lucy Christian, and that was really awesome. Um, but like for Foo Fighters, I was the first person to record those episodes that had FF in them, like 7, 8, and 9. So I kind of just did my own thing, and we kind of set where things were going to fall for those episodes in terms of like how intense I was going to get or how I was going to respond to scenes, and then that kind of helped others adjust for around it. And there's a scene in JoJo's, I think it's in episode 7, maybe episode 8, where a whole bunch of people had to repeat after what I had done, because like it's my voice coming through their bodies, but their own voices are also layered on top of it. So I was already recorded, so I like set that entire scene, and then everyone had recorded like my, it's like to my acting, like repeating after me, and then they layered them and like put them together. So that was really interesting to hear, because I got to hear other people performing with my performance but their voice. It was really interesting. But if there like isn't anyone in the scene already, they'll mostly the director will like guide me through it. Especially like really strong directors, or really like the directors I like to work with that I would be like, oh, they're a really good director, is they give me a lot of the context and like how I am reacting and acting, like how my actions are and how I'm reacting to other people in the moment, which will help me understand how those actors are going to be directed to attack their moments. Um, and of course, like, each actor brings their own thing to a role, so they might take it in a different direction, but at least the director tends to have a vision on how they want the scene to flow, and they tell me about that vision so I can help achieve that vision. I for I think it was, I don't remember what episode. It might have been like episode 18 or something of Darling in the Franxx. But there's like a scene between my character and Leo Clark's character. Uh and I recorded it first, and then Leo Clark came in and recorded it, and the director decided that they wanted me to tweak some aspects of my performance to uh better fit into his vision of the scene, and with what Leah had done. So that was really cool to kind of come in. I had already laid it down. Then Leah came in and did it, and then he had me act and respond off of Leah for a variety of the lines. So that's happened, and that was really cool. And there's always times where we have to redo things because of like animation changes or requests from the licensor, like maybe there's a change in the name pronunciation or other related things like that. And I've had to re-record for that because, like, oh well, now that it's like with our final home video footage, it doesn't look right, or it doesn't sound right, or the flaps are different, and having to re-record a character for that reason, which can kind of stink when you're like, oh well, now I'm coming into like the middle of a scene, I have to capture the moment that I had previously acted before and after, so it's really weird to like get into the moment, but it happens, so gotta roll with it. uh but yeah, I feel like those are mostly my experiences with that. I currently am directing a show called Legend of the Galactic Heroes. We just finished season 3 a few days ago, and the first 3 episodes, Aaron Dismuke played his character, who's one of the main characters, Reinhard. But then Aaron got vocal fatigue, and he wasn't able to finish the season. So we had my husband, Matt Shipman, who also plays a character in the show, cover for Aaron's part as well. And it's going to be really weird and interesting to kind of like go back, and we're going to re-record Aaron for all of those episodes that he missed. And like, it's going to be interesting to do that because like we're entirely redoing a performance in episodes like 4 through 12. And other people had performed around Matt's performance, and now Aaron's going to have to come in and like perform around the people who performed around Matt, and but like do his own thing still, because he has like his own specific version of the character and his own view of the character, so it's not all going to sound the same as what Matt did. So it's going to be an interesting experience, and I haven't had to redo someone's voiceover on such a large scale before, so I think it'll be challenging, but I think it'll be interesting and like sort of like an acting directing puzzle. So yeah. What do you believe is your most knockout role, and any roles you wish you could redo? Most knockout role, like, I guess like what role I thought like I really killed it in. Is that sounding right? Or like it more like a breakout role? Yeah, most proud of. Going back to that like character that I said I can't actually like say the name of, that was like, I feel like one of my best performances. I like really loved everything about it, and it's really weird to talk about it but not talk about it. So that was like, I hope that one day people could see that, because I'm really proud of how that happened. But otherwise, like, there's so much cool stuff that I got to chew into as Satoko. I know I'm just like totally teasing people by saying shit like that, but you know, I can't say anything more. I'll get in trouble, and I don't know if it'll ever happen. So like, I don't want to like lead people on too much and like hint more than, you know, whatever. But uh Satoko had so many facets, and like, I'm really proud of a lot of her PTSD moments I got to do, a lot of the sinister moments I got to do, a lot of the like romantic tension between her and Rika, and their like their relationship as a whole. um yeah, I really liked all of that. One of the last episodes that we recorded for Sotsu, pretty much the entire episode was a fight, and it was so exhausting to record because like almost every line had to have like punching and struggling and falling down a hill and being pushed into a table, and like, so it was just such a physical experience, because like when I'm performing something like that, like I'm trying to put into the struggle into the lines. Like if I'm like being held, I might be like, you know, recording like that, or like my arms up different ways to like embody the fighting physicality, and like holding myself weird, or like throwing punches as I speak, or like, you know, what have you. So it's a very, very physical episode. And I remember finishing it and being like, I'm so exhausted. And like, we still had like another like 5 hours or something to do on the episode. And like, so I finished like my first session and I was like, I am dying. And like, my body feels like it's been through workout and I still do so much more of it. But I'm really proud of it when I watch it, because I feel like you can hear that aspect of it. Um, any roles I wish I could redo. There's parts that I thought was really funny um in Juden-chan, which was like one of my first lead roles a few years ago, with Media Blasters. But there's other parts that I'm like, man, I could do that so much funnier today. But there's aspects of it I'm like, oh, I could never replicate that. That's like 2016 Brittany. Like, I'm not that Brittany anymore. So it's an interesting thing to hear. And like when I hear stuff from my very first anime, which was Queen's Blade Rebellion, where I played a character named Miram, I'm like, I don't know, could I do that again? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure it would sound better to me now if I performed it with my chords now, but would it be actually better? Would it make the product better? I don't know. So it's a hard one. Um, but yeah, there's some things I've listened to myself of from very long ago, where like I said, I did Satoko's laugh in like in a recording where I like was reading out loud of the manga, and I had recorded it with my very old blue snowball mic circa 2010, and like that sounded like garbage, guys. Like it sounded real bad. But you know, but at the time I thought I was like so good. There's like recordings I heard of myself doing the same thing with like the Katekyo Hitman Reborn manga, which is one of my favorite series, and like one of my favorite characters ever is in that. And like listening to me doing the same thing where I like read his dialogue out loud, because I'm like, I want to play this role. It's like the dream character for me. Listening to that now, I'm like, oh my god, I sound up so bad. I could do this so much better today. So yeah, it's interesting, I guess. Like what why so I wonder, like in 10 years when I'm gonna think of my performance in like Higurashi, which I'm proud of now, like will I still be proud of it? That's a good question. So I hope so. I hope I'm still proud of it. Any roles you really wanted and missed out on? Well, I really love Hunter x Hunter. And so when Hunter x Hunter wasn't dubbed yet, I was like, oh my god, like I'm finally acting professionally in things. I would love to read for um Killua. I loved Killua as a character, and Kurapika. who I go back and forth between saying Kurapika and Kurapika because I don't know, my brain doesn't know what it wants to decide it should sound like. But I would have loved to read for those characters. And you know, it, I wasn't in that area yet. Like I wasn't accessible to that. Like now I do work with Bang Zoom. And like it's really cool to be like, well, yeah, I mean, I didn't get to be in Hunter x Hunter, which is a show I really love, but I'm in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as like this really freaking awesome character. So, I try to tell myself things happen for a reason. When I was younger, I was so upset Katekyo Hitman Reborn, one of my favorite shows ever, didn't have a dub. And now I'm like, it didn't have a dub because the world wasn't ready for me yet. So, it's like there's things like that that I tell myself sometimes. It's like, well, now I'm powerful enough. Let's go. Katekyo Hitman Reborn. And so like it's not like I missed out on playing that character because it never got dubbed. And then maybe one day the Hunter x Hunter Dark Continent content will get dubbed and there'll be a character that's right for me in that. So yeah, but I would have loved to be in Hunter x Hunter, but it's not over yet, so it always could happen. What anime characters inspired your career the most? Um, well, going back to Katekyo Hitman Reborn, a big reason why I pursued like wanting to play boy characters was because one of my biggest dream characters and favorite characters in anime overall is Suna from Katekyo Hitman Reborn. I have like a poster of him over here on my wall and like figures of him over here that you guys can't see. And so that character was really important to me. I wear this Mongola the Fungolate sky ring around my neck and a half since I was in not grade school, high school. So like you can see pictures of me online, and I just like almost always have this necklace on if I'm wearing a necklace. Sometimes I won't, but because I have a different necklace on. But like many times it's this one. So it's just been like such an inspiring part of me wanting to pursue things is like thinking about that character and how he impacted me. And that helped drive me to want to like try and play characters like that. I cosplayed him a bunch when I was a kid too, so like he's just a really important character to me. I also like remember going to New York Anime Fest in 2009, and they were doing a big Soul Eater thing, and we went to the dub panel, me and my friends at the time, and watched the first like 3 episodes of the dub or something. And I heard Brittany Karbowski as Black Star, and I just felt so inspired hearing her voice come out of that character. And like I never finished Soul Eater, but I like was really into Black Star because I thought what she did was so cool, and like how she used her voice, and like the way like her like higher pitched but like textured voice could be used, and I have like a little bit of texture in my voice but tend to also have a higher sound, and like was teased for it being like shrill and stuff when I was a kid. Like how she turned that into such a cool character, and like she does that with all of her characters. Brittany Karbowski is like fantastic. And so like that was really inspiring to me when I was younger as well. And then I also watched To Love Ru when I was in high school. It was like one of those shows that was on the Anime Network, and I was like, cool, I'll check it out. And so I would watched it, like a few episodes here and there. I think I watched all this first season because it was out, and I like loved it because it was so silly, and I loved how Rito sounded, the main character, and so like that was another character that I was like, I want to try and learn how I can make my voice sound like it should come out of that character. And all the Higurashi characters were pretty inspiring to me in that like they had such a cool like story arc or various story arcs, and I thought that that would be so cool to play one of those characters one day, and then I actually did. So yeah. Any favorite studios or directors to work with? Um, I don't really feel like I have a favorite studio to work with because there's so many people that work at a given studio. Um, but there's a lot of people who there's like a variety of directors that I really enjoyed working with, even if it was short time. And I feel like it's just because our like approach to working on something were similar. I always really liked working with Clifford Chapin, who's the director for Dr. Stone and Darling in the Franxx. He was someone who I've known for a very long time. And we have like co-directed and assistant directed on shows with each other before, so we kind of have a similar idea of how we want our projects to sound, or a similar approach to things. And so I particularly like working with him because I know that um, we're going to make a like product, we're going to craft a product versus just like spitting out some lines and hoping that they fit the flap and moving on. And so like I always enjoyed working with him. He's a good friend of mine as well. I really like working with Raleigh Pickens from Okratron. He just is got really good energy. We worked on he's been my engineer for Legend of Galactic Heroes for the last few seasons. And we worked on like Super X Arrows together, and I just have a good time working with him, and it's a collaborative environment. And one thing he tries to always do is like when we finish early, we'll just watch the entire episode back, and he like it's like, are you happy? Do you want to redo something? Do you want to change how you approach this? And I think that's just a really collaborative way to like run the room. Um, and I've worked with Alex Von David only a few times on some games, and I did Sword Art Online, uh, like small incidentals for the Progressive movie with him, and he's just so fun to work with. I really enjoyed working with him, and I one day I can work with him in a greater capacity. Um, I really like that he tends to script a lot of his own projects, and so he has just a deep understanding of what he's working on. But he keeps the room very like positive too. So yeah, and like isn't just a settler. Like he wants to get the best performance to serve you and to serve the project and the characters, and I like that. There's a lot of other people I'm sure I'm missing. I really like working with Mike McFarland because he does a similar thing. We did Double Decker together, and I think that's such an underrated, fun anime, and I enjoyed working on that together. Um, and Anthony Bowling did some of the Young Law stuff with me, and Tyson Reinhardt, and I appreciated both of them making it a room where, like, if I said like, "Hey, can I try that again?" or like, what were you thinking about that, and stuff like that, we could have like dialogue about it, and that's always really cool. But there's so many amazing directors out there. I'm like leaving people off. Kyle Colby Jones from Made in Abyss is always like so fun to work with. So yeah, those are the people that I'm coming to mind because I'm like looking at my desk and I'm like, I love working on that project and that project and that project. But there's a lot of great directors out there, and a lot of studios who have great directors working for them. Any advice for someone trying to get into the business? I would definitely suggest taking acting classes. If you don't already have like an acting background, give yourself an acting background. Take classes. There's so many online acting classes, not even just like based on voiceover, based on anime. Like there's just a lot of acting opportunities out there. Do research on who you're going to work with or study with. If you are taking classes, make sure you're not taking classes with someone who has turned to teaching because they can't work in acting. Try and take someone who's currently working in the field that you are looking to get in. So directors who currently work on properties you really like, or actors who work on or in the field that you're working on. Like if I was teaching a commercial VO class, I wouldn't recommend taking it because I don't know that much about commercial VO. Like I audition for commercial VO all the time. I've taken a lot of commercial VO classes. I can maybe give you like a one night like rundown on commercial VO, but like I would not take like a long-term commercial VO class with myself because I'm not actively always working in commercial VO. So same thing, like if you see someone who works mostly in commercial VO teaching an anime voiceover class or a character voiceover class, like check to see if that's what they work in. Like, do they have credits in that? Do they have a reason to or like a like what's the not reason, but like accolades or something like that, like something around those words, like to stand behind them. Um, like because there's just a lot of people now that are like, oh well, a lot of people want to get into VO, like I can get into teaching and make that really lucrative. There's a lot of agents who teach and they know the business really well. Directors who work in the business, stuff like that. But there's a lot of different acting classes out there now. And there's a lot of affordable options out there. If you guys are in Maine, kind of close would be New York, out of like all the big markets. And Actors Connection has these classes in New York City that are also available online now. The director for Yu-Gi-Oh, Darren Dunstan, teaches some of them. I know Paul Liberty teaches some. There's a lot of people though that do classes at Ace, not Ace, Actors Connection. Ace Studios is a very affordable option for classes. I just finished teaching 2 classes there this week, but I think they have usually like at least 1 class a week in voiceover, and they go up on the 15th of every month. But there's a ton of other ones. I could spend the entire class listing places to take classes, but take them. Practice reading out loud every day, practice tongue twisters, get books about acting and read them. Um, uh, Practice clear speech, practice different emotions, read out loud in different emotions, read out loud in different voices if you want to work on range for voiceover, practice different breathing exercises. I took pranayama yoga classes when I was younger that spoke specifically on different breathing techniques, and I thought that was just like the coolest class I could take. And I use different breathing techniques like that in my work, or in my warm-ups. And You shouldn't focus on like I can do a million voices, like focus on acting choices. um Theater, community theater, college theater. Um, Community colleges might have acting classes you can take. Get get in there and practice, no matter what it is, whatever way. There's a lot of different forums and Discord groups and Twitter groups and Facebook groups and stuff for people who want to pursue voiceover. Kira Buckland had founded the Voice Acting Club, which has a like the code name VAC or something. Um, and they have a Discord for people who want to get involved in voiceover and have a lot of resources, a lot of articles about things, answering a lot of questions. So yeah, I would say the best thing to do would be creating a solid foundation using all those things. And then you can start looking into like buying an expensive mic or relocating or making a demo reel, but you got to set yourself a foundation first. And some people want to just jump the gun and get to like, they're like, what's the hack? Like, how do I get there faster? It's like, there isn't any secret. There's not a secret to doing this faster. It's like slow and steady wins the race, and finding that foundation and building upon it. I take acting classes regularly. I took an acting class a few weeks ago. And I'm always trying to update my materials and how I market myself and how the agents I work with and stuff like that. So it's a career that's constantly, you're going to be constantly working and constantly growing and having to figure out how to adapt in. My AC is so loud. It's like 103 degrees here in Texas. Any tips on or tricks in building a home studio on a budget? Um, so when I was in college, I had like a blanket fort that I pretty much recorded out of. I had like a voiceover isolator. It was like curved, like if you were looking head on like down, it would be like something like this, and the mic would be here, and it was like that looking. And then I like had blankets around it and stuff. And that was like my little like fort where I recorded whatever I could. And you can build stuff like that, or some people I know that like are in big titles right now, they record out of their closet, and their closet is covered in moving blankets and like audio blankets, which you can find online, and like stuffed animals, and then like they have an iPad to show you the video, and like a laptop on, and like like with a cooling fan. Like there's a lot of budget tricks you can do, um and I wouldn't spend tons and tons of money on something if you're not sure where you're going to go with it. I don't know what the hip, popular, budget friendly microphone is right now. I know a lot of people use the Neumann TLM 103, and that's an expensive microphone, but you can find like boutique mics and clones of it. There's a website I think called Microphone Parts that sells like its clone version for a few $100s. And I think some people like this Studio Project C1 as a like, oh, it's supposed to sound like a Neumann. Um and I don't remember what else is like the like budget friendly popular mic right now. But those are some. Some people will buy like a really cheap microphone and thinking like, oh, like someone suggested this to me. I would do your research and look into it a little bit more, because there's so many people who bought like the Shure 7MB, I think is what it was called. But it's a really quiet microphone, and you have to get an additional piece of equipment done if you're going to use that to boost the gain. And so like just make sure you're getting all your parts. A lot of these microphones are going to run on something called phantom power, not just a USB plug and play. And so you need an additional piece of equipment that's going to provide that phantom power. A popular low budget option is the Scarlett, the Focusrite Scarlett. But like if you're going to use a Focusrite Scarlett, I wouldn't recommend like plugging your super fancy Neumann TLM 103 into it, because it's kind of like powering your body on McDonald's. Like it'll do the trick, but how sustainable is it? It's not the healthiest thing for that microphone or that piece of equipment. I had helped someone set up their space on like a not like a shoestring budget, but they had like a top off where they couldn't spend any more than that, and we had found like a lower priced version of an Apollo Solo. And then they had one of those boutique mics from a company, I don't think they sell them anymore, called MGE Fat Boy. And I think that company is that guy who made those microphones no longer works in the business. But they did that, and then they just put it like together in their closet, and put like a bunch of moving blankets and some acoustic foam, and it was good enough. And some of it, like, it really depends on like the home, what you want your home studio to be for. Like when we're casting projects now, like I have to check for people's studios to be of a certain caliber. But there's plenty of projects where it doesn't even matter what it's at. So like depends on what you're going after too. There's a lot of websites and stuff where you can buy secondhand equipment as well. I think one was called like reverb.com maybe, but there's also Facebook Marketplace groups of voice actors trying to like, exchange equipment and stuff. And you can get some good deals on stuff that way. I have a whole bunch of stuff. I like want to reorganize our booth. And one of the big parts was something that someone was getting rid of, and they're like, I just want it out of my house, you can take it for free. And I was like, cool, like that saves me like $300 or something like that. So I don't know if that exactly answered the question in my rambling, but hopefully. Any plans to have your own blog for voice acting? No, I tried at one point to like update my website regularly with tips and tricks, or like make a video series, and very bad at holding myself accountable to those things because I get really stressed out and then I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this thing, and then I just stop doing it, or like I just get like executive dysfunction about it, and it, I don't know, freaks me out, I guess. Because sometimes I get like so busy with things that I like barely even remember to eat. Like when we were working on Galactic Heroes, especially, it was like, oh yeah, I need to do human things now. Ooh, what time is it? Oh, it's like midnight, and I haven't eaten or showered or whatever because I've been like working on this project. So probably not, but I try to answer people when they ask me things on Twitter and stuff. So if any of you are people who are interested in voiceover, whether it's like you want to get into it or you just are curious about it, you can always tweet at me and I'll try my best to answer if I'm not like overwhelmed and underwater. So yeah. Want to type your Twitter handle? I will. It is Brittany Lauda VO. Any closing remarks? Well, I'm sorry that the connection was a little funky, so I couldn't hear you all ask your questions yourself, but the chat was working well, so I'm glad that we had someone here who was willing to type out all the questions. Because I'm glad I could answer them without being like, what? Huh? Say that again. But I wish I could have been there in person with you guys. I hope you are having a wonderful time at PortCon Maine for the 20th anniversary. I hope the weather is nice there and that you're having fun and there's cool stuff in the dealer's room and cool panels and stuff like that. Feel free to follow me at Brittany Lauda VO on Twitter. Ask me more questions or what have you. I have a Streamly store up where you can buy signed prints, and I can like pop that in the chat. But I'm not going to be signing them today, probably next weekend, but I'll like sign them live on Twitch. And I have like posters and prints and stuff like that. And some of my poster proceeds and print proceeds will be going to the Trevor Project for Pride Month. So yeah, thank you so much for coming and asking me questions and sticking around. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm gonna keep waving because I don't know if I should turn off my camera or what.
Yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in and giving us the lowdown. Like, not sure if you can hear me.
Kind of. I don't know why. Like it just like cuts out so often. Like I don't know if it's the microphone or the connection, but yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for wrangling questions for me. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.